Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm the Novice Railway Modeller, and as the name suggests, one of my passions and hobbies is railway modelling. However, I'm doing it for the very first time, so I'm learning as I go. Today I'm going to take you along the journey of how I've built this double junction with electro frogs and long crossings using DCC Concepts materials. Okay, so I'm all prepared now to start this double junction and to wire this up with these DCC Concepts Cobalt Rex relay exchange boards, relay extension boards. So what I thought I'd do first is I've got all my components. So I've got the two Rex, there'll be one for either side. I'm going to start with this side on the left first of all, and then I'm going to move over to the right hand side. So let's see if I can perfect and learn from doing it on the right hand side. And Chris at DCC Concepts sent me this how-to sheet because I'm running an accessory bus, so this shows you how to wire these from an accessory bus, although Chris constantly reminds me he's not a big fan of accessory buses. And it will be interesting to see what you think too. I mean, in my research a lot of people do recommend running accessory buses, but it would be interesting to see what you think. So yeah, because this is running from accessory bus, here's how-to instructions. It does look a bit daunting at first, but I've read through it 2 or 3 times, and I think I do understand it now. So my accessory buses are already running underneath this board, and I've got these connection blocks that I'm going to use to connect from the accessory bus into both the point motors and the relay exchange. So I've got those ready as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to start now with preparing the points as I would do normally. So I'm going to crack on and get those ready. So this is not a tutorial for how to prepare your points. There are plenty of those on the internet, but this is how I go about it, by removing the connections of the 2 rails that are soldered by Pico, and so I pull them out so to help make the point better and improve it going forward for electrics. I then take out the spring from the point. Be careful on that because it's a little bit sharp, and as you can see, it's free move now. Good. So next thing is just to take those ugly large bars off the point. They're on there because Pico use surface point motors, so they're in there, but you can see I've taken them off and they look a bit neater. And if you compare them to one that I haven't done, you can see that they look much better. So I then file ready for the dropper wires, and then once that's prepared, I then add the frog wire, and I do that by just wrapping the wire around the pre-wiring of the Pico point, and once that's in place I then solder that to make a nice tight joint. Careful not to burn your fingers, of course. I then put a shrink wrap on and make sure that the joint's nice and clean. So this double crossing is now prepared. We've got the 2 frogs on this side and the 2 frogs on this side, and the joining cables for each of the rails in position. So what I'm going to do now, given that the 2 left-hand points have been prepared, is go back to the board and start to mark where I'm going to drill holes for the dropper wires to go in, as well as the point motors. Okay, so having prepared the points, I've now prepared the boards where these points are going to go. So you can see that I've actually drilled the holes. So we've got a hole for the frog, we've got a hole for the point motor, 10mm. So this is going to be point number 71, which is why it says 71 there. And you might just be able to see that this point is slightly ahead of this point, and that's purely down to when the double crossing goes on, to make sure that it can keep it straight. and this one then just needs to push up a little bit to join the angle. So I'm going to put these two into position. Now I'm not going to put them permanently into position, of course, because I need to flip backwards and forwards and make sure that I've got the wires done the right way around. So I'm going to temporarily pin them in, and I've just drilled 3 holes in each of these points just so I can tack them down, and obviously they'll get filled in later once they permanently go down, so you won't be able to see them. Right, now that the 2 left hand points are pinned into position, I've temporarily fixed on the double crossing. Now when you use insulated rail joiners, they're not like the metal ones, they can rock a little bit for you to try and find the right position. So what I clearly want to do is to make sure that this remains straight. So what I'm doing is just popping over a track setter and making sure I've got that absolutely spot on. And then what I did, I just drew some guidelines on the side to make sure that I get that about right. So I clearly feel that that's in a straight position, and now I can safely tack these tracks down to make sure that they don't move, and so I know exactly where they're going to go. I fix these in now with temporary screws. The frog wires are tucked away. Perhaps what I should have done before, but it doesn't matter, is actually added the dropper wires. The holes are done, so I should have actually added the dropper wires onto these. So that's my next job, and obviously I'm going to have to add dropper wires onto this rail and to this rail. So I think I'm going to do it about here, because that will power that all the way down. So just having rethought how to power these tracks, I was going to solder the wires on here, but I've changed my mind, and I've done what I said I wouldn't do actually, and I've actually wired the power to the turnouts through where I joined these 2 rails together underneath. So I've joined the wires onto there, so we've got the black to the back, red to the front, and the same on this one here too. So on the double crossing, I've joined the wires underneath onto these parts here. So I'm going to test it anyway and see how that goes, but I've just pinned everything back down again so I can get it up if there's any problems. So just a quick update on the progress that I'm making in wiring this complex long crossing and double junction. So here are the 2 left hand turnouts coming from underneath here, and then the turnouts go to the right. So we've got the 2 frogs for each of those 2 turnouts, and the 2 point motors are in, number 70 and number 71. And I'm just in the process of following the diagram to wire up the Cobalt Rex into these point motors, as well as the point motors and track have been wired up to this terminal block. So I'm just following the instructions, and when you look at it like this, it could look a little complex, but it's important to really concentrate. I'm trying to get some order into the wiring, which is why I've got these cable ties in place, and I use staples to put the cable ties against. So I pop those in how I imagine the wiring route taking place, so it does have some neatness to it, so when you look underneath, if there's any problems, at least you can follow the logic of where the wires are running. I'm not a big fan of looking underneath baseboards and seeing a huge load of spaghetti. It needs to have some kind of level of order, and so that's what I'm progressing with now. These 2 frogs, 2 frogs here, 2 frogs there, are from the long crossing, and I'll continue to make progress in wiring up this relay exchange, and then I'm going to once I've done that, I'm going to test it. Okay, so I've done a bit of research on this long crossing, and around these 2, what I thought were 2 frogs on each side of the long crossing, but after the research I've done, and it's a little bit difficult to see even on the back of the card that comes with the Pico instructions, for me it's not that clear, but what I think I've worked out is the two inner, imagine the long crossing goes through here, the two inner ones are the frogs, and the two outer ones are for powering the track. So what I'm going to do at this point in time is just curl up and not power the tracks through these two outer ones, because I've wired them here already, not knowing that I think the two outer ones were track power. So we'll see if that works. I'm going to test it, and if it doesn't work then I'll have to re-look at it. I've now turned the board over. The power is connected to both the accessory bus and the track bus. And what I'm going to do now is the moment of truth and actually test if I've got this right. So what I've managed to, what I've got here is the track tester. Hopefully it's coming into shot. So I use this little track tester, and it just tells me kind of if I've got things right. And then if I have, which I don't think I will do, to be fair, but because it's the first time I've done it, and then we'll use the shunter, which I've just got off screen. So let's give this a go. So this is live, here we go. First track. Do we have power? We do have power, I think. Yes, we do have power. Hopefully you can see that glowing. It's glowing orange. That's red and yellow, so it gives us the orange. So we have track power there. Do we have track power on 70? Yes, we do there. Can you see that? We have track power too. So this point is straight on, it's not diverging, so this should be live here. Oh, and it is. Wow. And the diverge, the left hand should be dead. And it is, which is great. This point again is heading on straight on, so that should be live, and it is. Hopefully you can see. So that's great. Is this one dead? Wow, brilliant. Okay, now the moment of truth on the long crossover. So this point is going straight on, so this point should be live. And it is live, and as it's going straight on, this one should be live here. So let's try that. Wow, it is. So these should be dead, and they are. Wow, okay, brilliant. Let's try just changing the point. So we'll change point 70, we'll throw point 70 and 71. Bear with me a second. Sounds a bit slower, number 70. Anyway, so these should be still live. They are, they're still live. Now these should be live here. That one is. And that one is perfect. Now, let's just check they go across. So that's live there. This should be dead. It is. This should be live. It is. This should be dead. Wow. Does that mean I've got it right? The only way to really test that then is to let's put the see if we can put the little shunter across. So little Hornby shunter. Got some power. Brilliant. Let's change point 71 and throw that straight. Right, so this one should go straight through. Fingers crossed. Wow, fantastic. By Jove, I think I've got it. Have I got that right? I think I have. First time round. That's amazing. As a novice, Never really done anything like that. Just the gaps here, actually, I'm just looking at probably bigger than I wanted them to be. So none of these are fixed down, so when I do glue them down, I'm just going to push them slightly closer together. I think the wiring would allow. So the question I had on this, the mistake I made on this point here is there is what looks like a frog cable coming out here. There's two on each side. The lower one looks as though it's a frog cable, but my research now tells me that it's actually for the track power. So it must go and feed this track and this track, and the same on this side here. So I didn't wire those up, as you saw. I coiled them up underneath, given the fact that I'd wired them as a frog, because I powered the track separately down here. So I think when I do the board on the other side, I will wire using these and see how I get on. Save me wiring to these points here. So I'm really delighted with that. That's great. Now what I'm going to do now is fix these pieces of track in place first, get them glued in, and then I'll turn the board over, and then I will tidy up all the wires. So after the first double junction, I've now moved on to the second one and pre-prepared everything in a similar way. What I'm doing now is I've prepared the cork where I've just glued copy decks on there, and I'm now bringing the track down into the right position in one section. So I'm just getting it to be exactly where I want it to be, making sure that we've got a good adhesion to the copy decks, and then once I'm happy with that, then I'll put the track pins in to hold in that position, and then let the glue dry for a couple of hours or so, or maybe even overnight. Right, so that's the point and the long crossing now glued down and tacked down as well. So tacks are in. You can see the glue on there, the copy decks. So that should be dry reasonably quickly. But what I'm going to do is let that dry overnight and come back tomorrow. So I'll just pop a couple of weights on it. So one weight there and another weight across the middle of that. That just hold them down in place, and come back tomorrow. This should be great. I can turn the board over and then begin the wiring. So making some progress on installing this double junction, and what's installed so far is the accessory bus connection, electrical connection terminal here. Not soldered on yet, but these will be soldered to the accessory power, and then as you can see, we've got the power coming into the Rex through this yellow and this blue here. So those are in place, and then I've wired first of all point 69, so point motor 69. We've got the DCC power coming back out of the Rex, which is the blue and yellow, into the point motor here, and then we've got the switching cables and the frog switching coming out of the Rex into the point motor here too. So I'm going to move on to this point motor now and start to wire that up. But you can actually see that the frog wires from the crossing are already wired into the Rex, as well as a turnout for a number 69 is also wired into the Rex, as it should be. So I'm going to go on now and connect the track power up, and also get the connecting wires in to point motor 68. Okay, so the initial wiring is now in place. So I've connected and wired up as neatly as I can, but I've not tightened everything up yet, just in case anything has to move. So we've got the accessory bus coming down here, and we have the track power bus coming in here. So we have a terminal block for the accessories, we've got a terminal block for the track power, and the various connections that go to the relay exchange and the 2-point motors. So what I'm going to do now is turn the board over connect the power and see if we've got the wiring in the right way around. Okay, so power's now on to the track, hopefully. It's all connected up. I've now got my track tester. I'm going to test the voltage. It's coming through, and we need an orange light, so I'm hoping you can pick the orange light up there. So we have an orange light on the feed to the points, which is great. Now this point is feeding straight, so it's not diverging, so I'm going to hopefully, and we have an orange light there, which is great. This point 68 is diverging, so that should be live, and it isn't. If I check 69, that should be dead. It is. Now is it that way? Right, so therefore the straight on track, the non-diverge line, is lighting as being powered when actually the point is thrown. So I'm going to have to change the DCC in for the point number 68. That should work. Right, let's just check the crossing. Great, so we have power there because we're coming straight, and then we should have power here. We do. So we should have no power here, which we don't, and we should have no power here, which we don't. So if we turn 68, so we've now made this point change, so we have straight on, so that won't be working, but this one is, and this track should be working, which it isn't, and this one. Interesting. I'll just change 69. So 69 is now thrown and is diverging to the right, and that's right. Which means, therefore, that as this is why the wrong way around, it thinks it's thrown, and the crossing thinks it's thrown, which is now working. The interesting thing is, and I need to look into this, if both points were facing into the crossing, then which one takes precedent over the frog? Which track? I wonder how. I didn't notice that on this one, but I've noticed it on here. Anyway, let me change the DCC in for point 68, and let's see if we've got it correctly wide. Let's change these two wires round. So we'll just switch those cables for DCC in the other way around. So let's check that. So at 68, we've still got track power. Now it's coming straight on, so we should have it here. And we don't. Now then, my first challenge then, so let's try that the other way around. So, problem solving. I need to go back and look underneath to see if I can find out why. Right, so I'm just trying something else. I've just switched the switch in left and the switch in right. So my blue and black and red the other way around, coming from the track power. So I've just switched them round the opposite way around to see if that makes a difference. So 68 should be diverging, and it is. Good, and the crossing also goes. So that's live. So 69 is now diverging. Power at the front, power at the back, so I've now got that right. So if we switch that round the other way around, and let's have 69 going straight on. So 69 has now stopped diverging and moved straight on. So we have that, and there's the question I was asking before. So 69 is now going straight on, and it's taken the frog the right way, but 68 is also supposed to be coming across. It's live until the crossing, and then it's dead. One takes precedent over the other. So I think that's it for this section. I'll come back then tomorrow. I'm going to join these two point sections together and then power those tracks individually, feed them into the terminal blocks on either one side or the other, and then I will work on connecting the fiddle yard tracks, which is this one and this one and this one and this one. So I'll work on connecting the north and the south fiddle yards up to those, and then hopefully we should be in a position where we can run trains from the north to the south through this point network. Right, just before I connect the tracks up, what I've done, I just turned the board back over again, and I've just neatened up all the wires. So I've tightened up all these cable ties and made sure I've got some order to the wiring to make it look a little bit more logical. So starting at the top, what I've done is just put a spur off the accessory bus. So the accessory bus is in yellow and blue, and I did this for the first time, this spur on this set of points, double junction. Brought it in and just separated it with the cable tie so that those two bare exposed connections won't touch each other and short out. So you can see that the accessory power is coming in and feeding both points, yellow and blue, but also feeding the relay exchange. And then the red and blacks are all to do with track power, or power coming from the track. So that's feeding the 2 points and the long crossing, as well as feeding into the relay exchange. So hopefully some logic and some neatness to it there. And of course the track power runs off and away, feeding in from this side and away around that side of the fiddle yard, and so does the accessory bus. So just to summarise then, so I use this instructions from DCC Concepts because I'm using DCC Concepts equipment, which are the digital IP point motors and the relay exchange, the REX as they call it, and because I'm using an accessory bus, then these are the instructions for that. There would be a separate way of doing it if you were just feeding everything from the track power from a track bus, and there will be separate instructions, or you would do it a different way if you weren't using possibly digital DCC Concepts digital IP point motors. So these, what I've done here and that you've just seen, is purely down to the equipment that I've got. If you're going to do and use different equipment, you'll likely do it in a different way, but I do highly recommend these guys. And there's no affiliation for me, there's no connection other than I just think they're really good people, and if you've got any questions at all, then they'll answer them for you. They're really good and they'll answer them fairly quick. So if you haven't used these guys before, then have a good look at them, because they are really, really nice people. So just before I connect up as well, just a quick reminder of what this junction is doing here. So essentially to the left of the screen is the north side of the layout, which is the north side fiddle yard at the moment, and that goes from 6 tracks down into 2. So there are 3 up lines, 3 down lines, and they come round the corner and then they feed onto this board here, and the top 2 tracks, this one here and this one here, are coming down from that fiddle yard. And if we wanted, then those could continue to we could continue to stay on the fiddle yard, come straight across this junction here if they're coming out this way, onto this straight across, and then into the south side fiddle yard around here. So that could happen, and then equally we can go from the south side fiddle yard and come across this junction here and then come on to the main line, which is this track here. So these are the 2 main lines. So the 2 mainline tracks are here and here that feed onto, and the 2 fiddle yard tracks are the 2 rear ones. So it gives us complete flexibility to go onto the fiddle yard at one side or the other, or come off the fiddle yard at the other side, at one side or the other. And then we've got enough area here to create some kind of scene, yet to be decided. I was going to be a TMD, but I've subsequently changed my mind because I was going to extend the boards around from underneath the screen that you can see here on one side and create a TMD. But I've changed my mind subsequently to that, and I'm going to create a TMD further down the layout on the scenic section, which is one for the future. So that's what we're trying to achieve. So anything that I've done so far on this layout is purely around the fiddle yards and connecting the fiddle yards to the main line, and this loop will allow us to do it. So I'm going to crack on now and put those connecting tracks in from each side of the fiddle yard. So I found a little offcut of flexi track that I used previously, and it just fits neatly into this section. Everything is still loose. These baseboards are not screwed down yet, so hence the gap, and there's some gaps in here which will between these 2 rails, which will come closer anyway. So what I thought I would do is ask myself the question, why do I need to fit track power to this section? Because there's a cross member coming underneath here, so these can be screwed down properly, and we've already got track power coming in at this point here and at this point here. And I know the convention for DCC modelers is to power each piece of track, but it's such a small piece of track that I feel as though I don't need to power that little section, because there's enough coming from the left and the right. So what I thought I'd do is just run my shunter over this, because an 040 is going to find any problems in dead track, and just to see if it works. So let's just have a look at that. So here is the shunter. I've just literally pushed together some track into these 2 double junctions at either end, just for the demonstration. And there it goes. So just coming up to the first double junction now, into the long crossing. So I've set the points the right way for this one. And it's coming across the unpowered piece of track quite neatly, through the next point and across the double junction. And off. Let's just try that in reverse. So there it goes. Try and keep up with this for you. Just coming through at speed step 5 into the first long crossing, across into the next right hand turnout, onto the unpowered track, through the next point and through the long crossing. So that does look pretty good, doesn't it? I'm not going to go and power that track, but let me know if you think I should. Okay, I just thought I'd put a bigger Loco on, and I got this Class 60 to hand, the Curacao in load hole livery. I've got the sound on now. Sometimes it's an unfair test this, because super Locos like this have got the stay alive capacitors, so if there was any dead spots in the point network or the track, then it wouldn't find them, because the stay alive capacitor would help it through. But anyway, for a bit of fun, let's just let that run through and see what it looks like. So that looked pretty good as it went through there, so I'm happy just not to wire the connecting tracks, and then be able to bring those boards together. So I've now started to lay the cork underneath the track bed for these connecting tracks coming from this side, the south side of the fiddle yard. And this is the first time I've laid cork actually, because I've used this foam underlay previously on the fiddle yards, and doing it from a straight point of view, no problem, but obviously then you've got to try and curve the cork around the track. I didn't fancy wasting big sheets of it and then cutting round the track, so I thought I would lay some of the roll that I've got. And as you can see, to get it go around the corner, I've come up a way by just slitting the outside edge a little bit in sections, just the outside edge about halfway down the middle of the cork. And then on the inside sections, I've actually taken some cork out on an angle, and I'm just zooming in on those just to show you, so you can see that's what I've done. I haven't really looked to see how other people lay cork, but it feels like a logical way. But again, any other views and comments are really welcome. Please don't forget to do that in the comment section. So I've started these two tracks that are connecting the north side around this loop, and as you can see, I've put the tracks in already, 2 tracks. And I've marked the perimeter of each of the edge of each track, so that I can lay the cork in between. So I'm just in the process of doing that now. So I've now got both cork beds laid, and you can see the technique that I used on the outside of the cork, so I could get the shape and the bend, is just to put a slit with a sharp cutting knife every so often, and then the same on the inside. Same on the inner track bed around the outside, but on the inside this time I cut some V's, so I just cut a little V shaped out of each one. You can see here the likes was a bit too aggressive, but I will be able to fill that obviously with some with ballast. So that's my technique of how I lay curved track bed. Okay, so these two tracks now are fully fitted. So they've the beds are glued down, and I've glued the track down to the cork bed, as you can see here, actually, because the copy decks that I've applied is still wet. So what I tend to do is all the track was measured beforehand. It's never ideal really when you're trying to fit track in between two fixed points, i.e. these two sections here were already fixed. This section here was already fixed here, so I essentially was fitting track in between and trying to fit it on a curve at the same time. It is a little bit more tricky, but it's in now. And just to hold it in place whilst the glue sets, I put some track pins in there, which I'll take out later on once everything's dried. That'll probably be tomorrow. So yeah, so got that up completed, which means the loops between the north and the south are finally fitted, fully fitted, fixed, not temporarily fixed. Just allows me now to go underneath the board and just connect the dropper wires for the track power, which is here. So I've just got 4 to fit in, and there's some terminal blocks underneath, which I'll do. I'm not going to lift the boards and do it. I'm going to just do that underneath, because it's not about soldering, it's purely about just connecting the wires up to the terminal blocks. So let's just have a look at both junctions now. They're fully wired up. All the tracks are now connected, and here we've got class 66 coming through the down line. And then coming up the up line.